Okay, welcome everybody. Sorry. Welcome everybody. This is the Tantra into Zouk questions and answer call hosted by myself, Roger, and by Jolien.
Hi.
So what we're going to do, we're first going to start with I'm going to briefly share something about how Tantra into Zouk got started, what the idea of the whole workshop is all about. Then Jolien is going to share her both female perspective, her perspective as a participant, and how it helped her in her personal development. And later on, also a little bit about her participating role, because she's quite, she's quite in a unique situation when it comes to Tantra into Zouk. So, my name's Roger. I started Tantra into Zouk. Now, let me think. I think in 2016. Yeah. I started Tantra Zouk in 2016 as an experiment because I've been practicing hypnosis for a long time already, since I think 2010, 2012, and I've always been fascinated with different states of trance. And I found that hypnosis is one of the most efficient ways of bringing people in a state of trance. And I found it was just such a beautiful, magical space when a person goes deep into their subconscious, goes into different brainwave states, and really starts to connect on a deeper level with their essence. And at first, I didn't even know what that meant, but I could feel this change in consciousness and this change in vibration. So then when I what I started to notice that, sometimes when I would dance Zouk with somebody and I would take it really slow and do certain movements, I could feel that actually that vibration and the space that the person would go into was actually strikingly similar. And then I went to Bacciaturo, and a girl who I never met before asked me to dance, and I ended up doing head movements with her for 1.5 hours straight, and it was incredible. The moves were remarkably simple, but we ended up, or actually she ended up into this trance vortex, and by her going into this beautiful state of surrender and of trance, she kind of pulled me in as well. And that was an absolutely magical experience. And yeah, afterwards we were both like, whoa, what just happened here? And interestingly enough, a big part of the time that we did that, I wasn't even touching her. It was just the space and the vibration that was there that was just so yeah, it was so tangible. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my dance career, so to say. So then when I started getting into Tantra, which is, in my opinion, the method to get people deeply connected to their divine essence, I started to feel really how all the pieces of the puzzle started to come together. And I found like, okay, I think I want to share this, because this dance trance space is something that people are looking for when they go on psychedelic journeys. But through the magic of Zouk, we can actually reach that without any substances. Now, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I think both are a beautiful element in people's personal journey. I've done quite some psychedelics in my own past. I'm now in a phase where I don't use it anymore, but I think it's a beautiful part of personal, spiritual, emotional growth. Anyways, I thought, okay, I need to start sharing this with the world. So I invited a bunch of dance friends and people I knew were interested in some alternative stuff. And we had a group of 25 people, including actually Jolene's now husband, Jasper, who was super enthusiastic. And it was just an utter blast on trying to work with this and to see if we can add this spiritual layer on the dance. And that grew and grew. And we started from a one-day workshop and ended up in what it's now a four-day workshop, where basically what Tantra into Zouk is all about is how can we get to that magical state of flow? Because I think for everybody who's been dancing for a while, if you can go to a congress, and if you reach that state of flow for 1 or 2 minutes, that's actually all worth it for most people. I mean, if you resonate with that, please raise your hand or your digital hand. But I've been going to many different I've been going to many different festivals over the years, and that would always be worth it. And what we try to do in Tantra and Zouk, or actually what we aim at, is interestingly enough, we try to take the mysticism out of that a little bit. We keep the mysticism of the moment, but we're going to give people hands-on tools how to get there much easier. That you actually, instead of it just magically just happening to us when everything is perfectly aligned and the stars and the planets are, all that. No, what I found is that I can actually create that. And a follower can actually also create that when she has the right tools and brings in the right mindset. And the beauty of that is that that space of flow then becomes much more attainable, and you can have it at every Zouk party or every Zouk social, because it's something so deeply ingrained in us humans. It's such a nourishing space to be in, that we find it incredibly valuable for people to have more access to that, have more ownership of that, and also to be able to work with whatever comes up then. Because when you do go into a state of flow for a longer period of time, there is a tendency of whatever is keeping you away from being in that might come to the surface. And then we can see how we can start using the microcosmos of a partner dance, and in this case Zouk, how we can use that for our personal and emotional and spiritual development, and to enhance our dancing, basically. So that in short is actually what Tantra into Zouk is all about. And what Tantra is about is so in the Western world specifically, we are all very much intellectually trained. Everybody's been who's gone to college or to university. All the information goes through the head. Tantra, the direct Sanskrit translation actually means the method. And then there's actually a beautiful book called Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, which means the method to go beyond consciousness. And that is what Tantra actually stands for, the method to enhance or even go beyond consciousness. And in Tantra and Zouk, we're going to give you a little bit of theory, but we're going to mostly invite people to make an experience of something new, because once you experience something in the body, you have an expansion of your awareness, and you have an access point to something that you then can choose or not to, but most people choose to then expand into that and add that to your dancing, and potentially also to other elements of life. So that would be, in short, kinda what Tantra into Zouk is all about. Oh crap, did I press the recording? Yes, I did. Okay, sorry, I forgot about that. Would you say that covers it, Jolien, in general?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I don't know if there are already questions about your explanation or if I can continue with my story.
That's a good bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, then would you like to share something about your experience of your initial resistance, actually, when you heard about Tantra and Zouk, and how you came about to actually participating and what that did for you?
Yeah, well, I think I need to start when I started dancing Zouk when it was 2009. Um, and I was really focused on the technical training and on becoming a professional dancer. I was teaching, I was performing, so the technical part of dancing was the main focus I had. um, and I also felt that well, I think there are multiple things that uh, initially gave a lot of resistance for me to go to Tantra and to Zouk. The first thing was that I felt with the word Tantra, I felt like, okay, but this is something sexual for me. I thought like, okay, but Tantra is about sexual interaction with multiple people. How do you want to put that into Zouk dancing? Um, so I felt like, okay, I want to stay far away from that because that was my I was in a monogamous relationship, and I felt like, okay, dancing for me is a safe way to connect with other people because it's a safe container. It's a framework where I know I can have the connection without that meaning anything more than just enjoying the dance. So to put Tantra into Zouk, it made it feel unsafe for me. It made it feel like, okay, but then you just open up the space and anything can happen. But I don't want that space. I want to have the safety of the container. Um, the second part was also that I felt that there was a growing interest in Zouk in general, focusing on how to have more connection in the dance, to how to experience this flow. Um, and I also felt that as a dance teacher, um, to just put the focus on that aspect of the dance. I also saw a lot of people who were not really trained in dancing Zouk, but still doing a lot of workshops on how to get into a flow state or how um, to just focus on connection. And I felt that as a judging as a teacher, I felt that that's not good for the Zouk community because then I saw all these people just with their eyes closed and in the like seaweeding on the music. And I felt like, oh, that's not the way how I want to experience Zouk. So I also felt resistance from that point of view. That I felt like, okay, but Zouk needs to have like a higher quality of dancing instead of just people enjoying the music with their eyes closed. Um, so that's, I think, the two main things where I felt the initial resistance. Um, and the first reason I just mentioned was triggered when Roger invited me to come to Tantra and to Zouk. It had something to do with my personal process in that moment that I went through a burnout and I ended also up getting into a divorce with my husband. And then I think after a few weeks, Roger contacted me and asked me like, "Oh, but now you are divorced. Maybe now you are interested in going into Tantra into Zouk." And I felt like, okay, see, that's what I mean. It's more than just dancing. So the first reaction was, no, I don't feel open now. Now I'm divorced. I don't want to go into a space where um, I want to connect with all other men in a different way. Um, but then I also knew Jasper for a long time already, and I trusted him. I also trusted Roger in like they have a good intention for improving the Zouk scene. So I also felt like, okay, maybe I need to just go to the event to also have more building blocks, more arguments to build my opinion on, instead of having resistance to something I don't know what it's about. So I felt like, okay, I just want to be open to experience it, and see what it's about, and then I can also decide for myself if I want to continue or not. In my own personal development, I felt like I want to focus more on what is this connection where people are craving this flow state. I experienced it myself, and I felt like, how can I get into that magical place more? But also, how can I find tools to use also in teaching? So I also went to a lot of events with Anderson and Brenda, where I felt like, okay, they are also working on themselves, but also on how to bring this connection kind of techniques into dancing Zouk. So then I got more curious also about the Tantra into Zouk, and I decided to join. And to me, I think it was were a lot of different things that helped me understand what it was more about. That it was not about just have connection and open up space for more than just dancing. To me, it felt more that it was actually more about safety, about how to create my own safe container, so I can really go into surrender. How I feel safe, that I'm not being physically hurt because someone is trying to do head movements in a wrong way for me. How can I communicate what I want or what I need in dancing? And how can I really relax into following and surrendering to the lead that is given, in such a way that I don't need to focus anymore on the technique. I don't need to focus on keeping myself safe, and then I could really feel I go into surrender. I could forget the time. I could forget the space where I was, and I could understand also more about how I could use techniques in myself to get more into this state, more natural. So I guess to me that was the main magic thing on how it can improve my dancing. But next to that, I was also more curious about how Tantra could also help me in my personal development more. So it didn't stop at one workshop. At the time, I think, Roger, you organized 5 or 6 different workshops, different levels, and I decided to just continue every time I felt like, oh, I'm curious about how this could help me more or what could bring me more. And then I ended up doing all the workshops he ever organized in that period of time. And I also went into different went looking for different places to learn more about myself in these kind of workshops, to learn more about what do I need to be able to enjoy actually more what I was doing, instead of just focusing on how to be a good dancer, how to please the other person, because that were a lot of patterns that were inside of me, where I also found myself getting into a burnout or being in a relationship that was not healthy for me. So it ended up being much more than just something to improve my dancing, and it helped me a lot more about how could I connect to myself first, and from there communicate more about what I need, and how to enjoy myself way more also in dancing. So I'm very grateful also to be part of the team now, that I could also not just focus on my own personal development, but also share it, because that's, to me, also in Zouk. I always loved the teaching part of it, to share my own passion with people who are as enthusiastic as me about Zouk, about the music, about connection, about how to learn more about yourself in combining all these things together. So I really loved to have this opportunity to use the things I learned about myself, about Zouk, but also about my background as a psychologist, to have all these different pieces of the puzzle connecting in type of workshop where I feel that everything comes together. So for me, it's I'm really happy for it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one question actually. Would you say that how you
Mhm.
were acting in your dancing was also very much how you were acting in your relationships or your relatings?
On one hand, yes, it was in. It resembled a lot of like high standards that I had for myself about the being a good dancer, about teaching other people. It was always something that was inside of me, but also the high standards I put on myself, that I need to work very hard. I need to achieve and always push myself to be better. Um, and I'm not sure that was not only in my relationship; it was in life in general, I guess. Um, and about how it was in my relationship, I think on one hand it was because it was this safe container, as I said, a safe container where I didn't need to verbalize my own needs or my own boundaries, because it was already set from the outside. And I think that resembled also how I was in my relationship, that it was kind of a safe thing to be in a relationship where the rules are all set. But in the end, I also felt that dancing became an escape from my relationship, because I felt it was restricting me. And in dancing, I could feel that there was more freedom for me to explore, um, to enjoy connecting with other people in a way that, um, yeah, I think when I started focusing more on the connection part of Zouk, I also felt that it opened up a lot of joy and pleasure for me that I was missing in my relationship. So then it became like a gateway to experience things that I was missing in my relationship, and it also made it more clear for me what I wanted to experience also in a relationship. So then it changed my perspective on it, and I guess it helped me also to be in a relationship now, being married again, but now in a relationship where there is not a strict set of rules where you need to be, oh, you need to be like this, or you need to behave like this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. It is fluid, and it can change like every hour. It can have a different set of rules, because it's about communicating what I need, what my partner needs, and how we want to be in the relationship together. And that opens so much more possibilities, actually. So then also marriage didn't feel like a restriction anymore, but more a conscious choice of how I want to be in a relationship. And I
Beautiful.
that the dancing part, it resembled also that process.
Okay.
But enough about me, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Um, yeah, I hope we gave you guys some access points to, or maybe you had, I saw in the register, sorry. Thank you, Jolien. Let's start with that for sharing, yeah, so much about your personal life actually, and yeah, and what role Tantra and the Zouk played into that. I'm still very grateful that that you're working with us, because for me, you as a very experienced dance teacher, having traveled the world doing shows and all kinds of things, and at the same time being a psychologist, and now also yeah, stepping into this field together with us yeah, I still feel very grateful for that. So thank you also for yeah, sharing your vulnerability and your story here. Yeah, we did a little bit of sending here. I hope you enjoyed it, but we'd really like to open the space for yeah, for any questions that you may have that you prepared or based on what we spoke about that you yeah. So we open the space for that. So anything you would like to learn more about, or I can go through the questions that were sent in. Let me have a quick look.
Catherine says that she feels sick, so she will just listen today.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing. That's totally fine. And if you do
Exactly.
have a question, you can also put it in the chat, so we can also, well, we talk about something that you maybe want to learn more about.
I thought I saw a question from somebody. Oh yeah, there's a question from Sandra, who couldn't make it to the call. So I'll just if we don't have anything specific right now, then I'll answer that. So the first question is how much dancing is involved in the event? So that's a more quite a practical question. So let me think about that. I would say it's about 60-40. 60% Zouk, 40% non-Zouk. Especially the first 2 days, we'll be working a lot with Zouk. And then later on, because everybody's more centered and more grounded in the space, we also start to bring in some other elements. Because what I personally actually found, so as Jolien mentioned, I also do a lot of non-Zouk Tantra workshops. And I specifically enjoy working with dance people, and specifically Zouk people, because the level of embodiment with Zouk people is just, it's incredible what can happen when a bunch of embodied people come together. Because I think as Zoukers, we sometimes underestimate how much practice we have done into embodiment. If you've been dancing for about 1 to 2 years, the level of body awareness and the body sensitivity is just incredible, actually. And that is a very beautiful foundation to start doing more spiritual and emotional work. So usually starting at the end of day 2, we start also to bring in some very classical tantric exercises that once you get what they can do, it is utterly amazing to bring that into Zouk and to help enhance your connection in relatively simple ways. But for most people, first, what we do is we give them an experience of the classical tantric philosophy behind it. And then we're going to see, okay, how can we bring that into Zouk? How can that enhance your Zouk? How can we overcome certain things that in the common world are maybe not so used so often? And then and then we bring that into the dancing, or we give that as an option and we guide you through that. The second part of her question is, and is it necessary to have an advanced Zouk dance experience? In other words, to be able to do head movements. So we require people to, when people come to Tantra and to Zouk, they need to be at more or less intermediate level. If you're still in the beginner phase, then it's better to wait for another edition, because if people are really still focused on what steps do I do? Oh, and how and this and that. Then it becomes progressively more difficult to, to let go of the steps and to really go into the body and to start stepping into the more spiritual and emotional spaces. Now, you don't have to be a very advanced dancer, but having a basic level of understanding of head movements and being able to follow and being able to lead that is usually a pretty good indicator that you can join this workshop. You don't have to be advanced on it. You don't have to be perfect on it. But we use it kind of as an indicator so that you have at least the basic understanding of it and that you've practiced it and that you can more or less follow like 50% of the movements on it. By all means, you don't have to be advanced, but also if you've never done any head movements, that is usually an indicator that the dance level is not, that it's better to do some general Zouk before joining, because we want to have we want to have a base level where we can work without running into the more, with all due respect, beginner problems of worrying about what steps to do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a part of dancing development that everybody goes through, that you're like in your head, but we want to be at least a little bit beyond that. Okay. So another question that was asked by C. I didn't really understand the definition of Tantra into Zouk. Where's the difference, for example, into sensual flow with connection? So I'm going to start with the last part of that. So you can have general flow and you can have sensual flow. These are two different things. Both are amazing, but one thing that is incredibly important to understand about Tantra and Zouk and about Tantra in general, or at least how I see the world of Tantra, is that if there's no consent, you cannot go into any higher levels of consciousness. Whenever the consent is lacking, there is no opportunity for higher levels of consciousness, because then basically people go into survival mode and just, try to survive whatever they're going through. So when people want to move from a general flow to a sensual flow, that is totally fine, but that needs to be in consent of two people, not just one who enjoys that and the other just, going along with it because they don't know what to do. Being in full consent is an incredibly important element of personal, emotional, and spiritual development. So a big part of Tantra into Zouk is also breaking these patterns, because what a lot of people are used to, and unfortunately, especially followers, when a follower finds herself in a dance that she's not so much enjoying, then often the strategy that is chosen there is like, okay, I'm just going to wait until the song is over, and then I'm going to thank the person really quick and just get the hell out of there. Anybody familiar with that? I'm also familiar with that as a leader. But our perspective, I mean, I know that is like kind of dance etiquette, but Tantra teaches us deep reverence to the body. So that means that we value the body tremendously. And from that perspective, that means that we do not promote anybody being in a space that they don't want to be in. Which also means that we're going to promote and also help you with certain techniques and certain language patterns to be able to voice that in the moment. Because why would you want to suffer through 2 or 3 or maybe 5 or 10 minutes of a dance that you're actually not that comfortable with, or worse even, not enjoying at all. So, and what's interesting is that there's two sides to this coin. On one hand, we're going to teach you how to enhance a dance where you're like comfortable, but nothing spectacular. It's kind of like, nah, it's okay, you know, there's worse things to do in a day. And we're going to teach you how you can dramatically upgrade feeling that, which is very important, which is, I think, one of the most amazing techniques that we have to offer. At the same time, though, this technique is not meant to help you kind of bypass, if you're feeling uncomfortable, to stay in that and then to soothe that and then to just prolong your suffering in a little bit of an easier way. That is something completely different. So at the other side of the coin, we're going to be helping people to do something that is not so common in daily, specifically in the Latin dances, is that sometimes you need to just say, thank you very much, but I think this was enough for me. And to dance and to end the dance before the song is even over. Or there's also something in between there. Sometimes there's just a couple of things that are uncomfortable, and that, I mean, you as a follow, it's your body, and specifically in Zouk, it's your neck. And we value that very, very much. And we think it's important that a person, everybody's an equal in the dance. You may be a follower and a leader, but you are both equals as a human. So as a follow, you have every right to say something about the quality of the lead that you are receiving. It's not just because you take a follow role, you just have to suffer through whatever. So we're going to be actually actively practicing with communicating in the dance, which for some people is quite a thing. And at the risk of being sexist or whatever, but I would say that the feminine principle has a naturally a bit more of a confrontation avoidant behavior, and rightfully so, because usually people in a male body just have more physical strength. So therefore, people in a female body have, it's a very healthy tactic to be confrontation avoidant, but not all the time. And especially when it comes to standing up for your own body and for your own safety. So we're going to be working with specific technique, and we're going to create a very beautiful, safe environment and an open environment where also the leaders will be much more receptive for receiving that, in order to install a new set of principles of how you would like to be engaged with as a dancer and as a follower. Could you add something to that, Jolien?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the question to me is, what's the difference of the Tantra into Zouk? What's different to essential flow? And to me, Tantra into Zouk, the tantric perspective is so much more than focusing on sensuality. And of course, Zouk is a sensual dance. So when the music is right, when the partner is right, I feel that I want to express myself in a sensual way. And then there's the part where how can I get to that state where I feel safe enough to express myself, where I know that my partner is receiving it in the right way, and where you can create a flow with this. But with some people, I feel a completely different energy, and it can also be a part of flow. It can also be very playful. It can also be, oh, I feel really sad sometimes, and I don't want to be in a sensual dance with someone when I really feel sad. But I do want to get into a flow state, or to surrender to that feeling and feel safe in the connection and in the dance together. How I can get into that emotion, and how I can just share some of that feeling with the person I'm dancing with, without speaking. So I had the most deep connected dances, and I could feel that it was not. Sometimes it was also a little bit sensual or even sexual energy, and then moving into like anger or sadness, or and then it could really yeah, feel like this travel that you do together with a person, like you go with the music and you go into to emotions inside yourself, and oh, something is happening with the way you move. um, and it can mean so many different emotions, it can mean so many different ways of moving. That to me, that is the spectrum of tantra that we have as human beings, that we have so many different feelings, and how to be able to feel them all, and even deeper, how to share them in a non-verbal way with someone in a deep connection. To me, that's the yeah, the highest state I could get into with dancing zouk as well, but also with connection. And sometimes it can mean sensual flow, but it can also mean so many different things than just that. So to me, that's the biggest difference. That um, to create a sensual flow or to feel good in your body, being sensual is just one part of it.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think I kind of got off track on that. What is the difference? One thing I would like to add to that, that in Tantra, Tantra, as I said before, stands for the method. So we really dissect the method and how to get there, and what you can do to bring yourself in a space where you are receptive to be able to step into that, or that you can actually be so receptive or be so present with where you are at that you can actually invite your partner to step into that space, which whatever that may be. Could be a general flow space, could be a sensual flow space, could be an energetic connection, could be an incredible, joyful, happy, playful connection. Um, but so it's kind of paradoxical, but because on the one hand, we want to be able to let things happen, but at the same time, we want to also be able to avoid blocking ourselves from letting things happen. And that's actually where that method comes in. How can you influence that mindset that you can be in a state of flow very easily, and that then things can start happening through you, or that you can start to choose to consciously go somewhere. And sometimes the one is better, sometimes it's better to go with just that flow state. And then the question is, can you maintain that? Because often we get into our head, and then that connection kind of breaks, and then that's fine. But are there things we can do to come back to that actually? And there are actually many things that we can do for that, and the consent field is a big important part to that of that. Does that answer your question, or does it give you a little bit of an idea? Or was it too vague? That's also possible.
Thumbs up. Yeah, it also reminds me of a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago, where a Zouk DJ was just having dinner at my place, and then the DJ was also a part of one of the first Tantra into Zouk workshops, and she told me that to have this exercise with eye contact was actually the most shocking for her, because she felt like, okay, this is so intimate to just have eye contact with a person, that she didn't really feel. She didn't expect it to touch her so deep, and then also she didn't know that, oh, this is something where I just actually have a lot of blockages, that it's too hard to just look someone in the eye. And then you don't even touch, you don't have a physical connection at all, but then it already so many things happen, and from that space you can feel into like, do I want to interact with this person more, or is this already too much for me? And is this something that's happening with just one person, or is it something within me where I feel like I'm too afraid to really show myself or open myself up? Um, and I guess that's part of the process, that sometimes you can learn a lot more about yourself. For me, it was also so scary to show myself, and that's why I was hiding in the techniques and the steps, because if I just show my personal feelings, then if I get rejected, then someone would reject me as a person. So that was the most scary place to be in. But I also remember it was in a private class with Anderson and Brenda, and then Anderson asked me, like, okay, you are a perfect follow, but do you enjoy the dance? And then it hit me so hard that I didn't enjoy anything because I was so busy doing it right, that it made me cry actually in that class, that I really got aware of that. I'm only doing this to please the other person instead of doing something to please myself or to enjoy myself. And then I was dancing already for so many years. Why? Actually, not enjoying myself, that's stupid when you think about it. But then it also changed a lot in me to be aware of that, and also to step by step, um, yeah, show more of what do I actually enjoy, and when do I enjoy dancing, and do I enjoy dancing with this person? Why is it with this person different than with someone else? So it opened also my awareness in that space.
Yeah, when I finish this point, Alina, then I'll come to you. For me personally, yeah, since we're on the topic of eye contact, I've always had a lot of issues with that, and I really, I can't. I found out that it was actually I had so much, well, I had so much shame and insecurity in myself that I had a lot of issues being able to look specifically women straight in the eye, and then through Tantra, there was several exercises where you kind of like go through that. And what is nice about what I love about partner dancing, and specifically Zouk, and then specifically using Zouk for our own personal emotional development. If I go to a party, I have the opportunity to look like 5 to 15 to 20 people right into the eye. And that's how for me at least, how I was able to use Zouk in becoming comfortable, like, oh, I can look a person in the eye, I can be seen, I can be okay with that. I can, in my own time, in my own space. But I found that to be very healing, because in day-to-day life, it's not so easy to find these situations where you can actively engage with that. And then some people would not want that. Others would be like, oh, that's interesting. And that's all fine. I would never, there's a difference in, I would never force it on somebody, but I would just be open. And if some people would be open, that, oh, great. And I noticed it would do something also for the connection. And that's, for me, the beauty of Zouk. There are so many beautiful moments of growth, and so rapidly, actually. That's quite unique, actually, when we look at it from a relational or engaging perspective, with people that you are potentially sexually attracted to, or at least the gender of your sexual attraction. And then every partner dance can really be a microcosmos of personal emotional development. And Zouk specifically, I found at least, is much more open for that, which makes it such a unique combination to be able to use it for that, and to enhance that for actually both people, because I've also noticed some partners getting more comfortable with that, and stepping into that space as well, because I invited them into it. or that sometimes followers would invite me into that, actually, where before I would just be ducking away and dancing. Yeah, it made me more comfortable in my own body, and allowed me to look at where those insecurities would be coming from. Anyways, in the workshop, we'll go more into that, and there's also more time to give a little bit of a bigger perspective on that. Thank you for your patience, Alina. You had a question.
More comments and appreciations than questions. I've been dancing Zouk with lots of breaks for the past 9 years. And I've been a coach for 14 years. I facilitate groups of authentic relating and a form of authentic relating called circling. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And I'm saying this because I am so familiar with these practices of eye gazing and disclosing and being seen, being gotten, speaking truth when it's uncomfortable in those spaces. And I've been wanting so badly to introduce that to Zouk. And it just seemed like maybe from where I was coming from in my relationship, I wasn't empowered enough, where I had stories running through my own mind. But my experience has been that I've been hitting my head against the walls with trying to bring that to the Zouk community. And it makes me happy to see that you have created this. I think it's very much needed. I would absolutely love to join if I hadn't already signed up for a nonviolent communication training in Romania. That's where I'm headed. I'm actually coming to Amsterdam. I'm in the airport because I'm flying, and I think that's where you guys are. Are you in Holland?
Yeah, we are based in Amsterdam, and but the retreat location is like an hour and 15 minutes by car from Amsterdam.
Yeah, I'm actually coming to Amsterdam for a retreat like that in the woods somewhere. And I was sad to see that there was no Zouk to take advantage of this week. I will be there tomorrow, and I haven't found any gatherings. So if you know of any intimate gatherings that are not posted, I would love to join.
Okay, yeah, send me a message on that, and then I'll connect you to. We based in Holland. There's always a party on the Sunday, and there's almost always a party on the Saturday. So there's always something going on. We are quite blessed with our party community here, actually.
Cool. And the other thing that I wanted to share is all of this speaks to me because I see what you're created, what you're offering as the bridge between, for me personally, between my somatic practices and my authentic relating practices. I can do both, but they're separate. I haven't been able to unite them. And I have some ideas for me personally why that has been, because I was in a relationship for 8 years with somebody from the Zouk community. So it overlapped. The relationship came on top of my Zouk, and then affected the way I would show up. But I'm very curious how you empower followers to express verbally and non-verbally during the dance if they're not enjoying it, because that has been one of my challenges. And I used to literally go into the bathroom and cry, or just leave. So, and I've left many times. I've had a lot of breaks. So that sounds amazing. I wish that all followers had those tools to not just put up with the dance, but to be able to be empowered and vocalize their needs in a kind and conscious way. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for creating it.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's it's a big part of our community. I actually very much enjoy the process that later on in the workshop we see actually people communicating in that way, because we give them some tools with that. And there's something very beautiful about consent work. And so I'm actually, as a male Tantra teacher, I thought, oh, maybe I should get into that a little bit more. So I became a certified Wheel of Consent teacher, which is a different modality, but it has some commonalities. It's just that in Zouk, everything is so quick and so soon. But the beauty about consent work is once you take ownership of it, especially as a follower, that doesn't exclude the leader from his responsibilities. Let's be very clear on that. I'm not propagating that it's all the follower's responsibility. It's not. It's a joint responsibility. The only issue is when somebody's not taking the responsibility, it always becomes the follower's problem. And when your problem is bigger, that even though it's 50% responsibility, the well, the growth potential when you take 100% of your responsibility in that is much larger, actually. And then there's also much more freedom in that. And what happens once, and this is interesting because, or this is actually something I'm extremely passionate about, when a person in the follower role or more in the feminine principle can take a higher level of ownership over her own body and boundaries, then the mind can relax. Because when there's this inner trust that you can speak up at any moment, you don't have to be afraid about what's coming or be on alert all the time, which I notice a lot of predominantly women are doing, which is, I'm not judging that at any point. It's just what I notice is that often comes from an underdeveloped capacity to speak up in the moment. And when that capacity starts to increase, then the mind can relax, and then also the body can relax. And when the body can relax, the potential for trance and deep flow dramatically expands, because only in deep relaxation can we go into spaces of trance, of all these like psychedelic type of experiences that we can have also on unconscious connection, on human touch, and all that. So that's why we emphasize that more. And I think that's actually in the that's to the benefit of both partners. I'm going to stick with a little bit of whatever sexual preference somebody has, all of that is welcome to us. We do, the tantric philosophy is that there's two genders, and then however much of that energy you have in your body, there's like a million different expressions of that. But both the masculine and the feminine principle benefit from that, because the masculine principle has a deep, strong desire to witness that divine surrender of the feminine principle unfolding. And that can only unfold when she's feeling completely safe to be able to do that. And there needs to be trust in that. And trust is very simple. When a person cannot take any feedback, the trust shrinks down very, very quickly. And then all the guards go up, basically. Or there's a collapse space, which is another, I mean, it's not an easy topic. But yeah, we think that's an important part. So if we teach dance trance on one hand, I think it's our responsibility to, at the other part, also to teach safety. You can't go only into La La Land without looking at the other side as well. And that's,
yeah, to me, can I add something to it as well? I was thinking about how is it for me, how I feel when I start dancing with women as well. When I started leading and dancing with women as a leader, I could feel that it brings me a different kind of safety, because I'm very like a soft lead, but also because I'm a woman, then I also feel that the other woman is surrendering and enjoying also sensual movements very easy, because it feels safe, because we both have this feminine body and we can create something together, and we are not alert on, oh, maybe now someone is harassing me, or so there's a different energy to it. And I could feel so much pleasure from also enjoying a different feminine body moving in very sensual ways. I could enjoy my own sensuality also more easy. And I also found that how is it possible? Because I always thought like, okay, I'm not attracted to women in that way. So what is this? I can also enjoy just moving sensually with another female body. And for me, it was really about to feel the safety and to not be alert on someone is going over my boundary. So it also helped me to understand like what do I need to be able to enjoy myself in this way, also with dancing with more masculine leaders, also with strong leaders, that I can still feel this safety within myself. It also needs a kind of sensitivity of the men. So we also have that aspect in the workshop as well. How can you be sensitive to your follow, and how can you be sensitive to the energy of the other person, and how can you use that to connect in a way that is not crossing a boundary? And then sometimes you need to know where is the boundary. I need to verbally hear it to understand how can I also recognize it without the words. So we also have a lot of exercises on that topic, to how to feel safe and how to create safety for yourself as a follow, but also for the leaders to understand what the follow needs.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I found that the more I practice this, the easier it is for my followers to surrender to it. The more I, as a leader, take responsibility for that. In the beginning, I was trying to shy away from it, but I quickly found like, okay, that's not really working. And the more I take ownership of that, and the more I allow that or create the space that feedback is super welcome, it just becomes so much more enjoyable for everyone, because I don't want to be in a space as a leader where I later hear that this woman is not enjoying, didn't enjoy this or that or all that. And in Holland here, we have this, how do you call it? This face it thing, which is actually, I think, a beautiful principle where if people have, how you call that, unconsensual touch or unconsensual things happening within the dance, that there's actually a space where people, mostly followers, can actually go to give a complaint anonymously. I think that in general is a very good thing, because yeah, I mean, when people dance, I mean, we are sexual beings, so that stuff will come out, and it's not always calibrated. So I think it's great that there's a portal for that. But what we like to do in Tantra and Zouk to actually go before that, because I think prevention is much better than the cure, and teaching people how to communicate about that is even better, because that can prevent a lot of different things. And for me, that's where Tantra actually starts, and that's also where and that's also actually what sorry, I just saw the question and then I got off my thread. Yeah, so for me, where the Tantra starts with safety, because when that is present, that and what safety actually means is that everybody can be fully themselves, and that your voice will be respected and will be heard, good or bad. And when that starts to happen, then something magical actually happens, which for us is always, there's a little anecdote. Well, whenever the group moves into this space where everybody feels completely, that they can just say whatever is going on within them, that's when a group just really starts to become such a beautiful a space for everybody to just to be themselves in, because that's what we're all craving, a space where we can just be fully accepted. And that's one thing that we create in the Tantra and Zouk community. So there was another practical question. Do you also offer workshops in other countries and cities? Right now, we don't, because we are mostly focused on the Western European market, which means that from Amsterdam, from a German, if you drive from Berlin to Munich, it's about as far as driving from Berlin to Amsterdam, or from Munich to Amsterdam is about the same as from Munich to Berlin. So within that realm, or from Paris to Amsterdam is about the same time as from Paris to Munich, or it's even shorter than from Berlin. So we keep it in the European peninsula. I am open to invitations to North America, and I'm talking to somebody to maybe do it in the wintertime in Australia. But I'm not taking much initiative on it because we have a space here that has all the supplies we need. So yeah, I'm open to it, but then people need to actively invite us or organize us, and that's how we go about it. So I hope that answered your question, Katrin. But Katrin sounds a little bit German-ish, so that might be the reason why we're not doing it in Germany. Okay. Okay. So any other questions about Tantra into Zouk, or anything about these topics? Or did we address everything that you wanted to hear? We make it an hour and a half, but often we end somewhere between 1 hour and 15 minutes and 1 hour and 20 minutes. I mean, we're happy to talk. We can talk for quite a long time if needed. Okay, I see Daria's message. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, what's actually quite nice, and I'm going to restart that. With the COVID, it kind of fell off, but what we actually did, especially in the beginning of Tantra into Zouk, we were always giving people these armbands so that you could actually recognize different people who've been to Tantra into Zouk, so you would know that they would be open for this verbal and this consent exchange during the dance if you would meet them at different festivals. And I really want to reignite that, and probably just redistribute all that to whoever's been to the Tantra into Zouk events. And on a commercial level, for those of you who want to join Tantra into Zouk, I've been looking at that, and this is something I find very important. So my mission is to share this beautiful world with whoever wants to hear it. So if you're watching this and you're looking at the prices of the workshop, and you think like, oh, that's Western Europe, and I'm, for instance, in more Eastern or Middle Europe, we have a special arrangement for people who are in countries that have an average income that is below 30,000 US dollars a year, and then we give you a discount, because if your average salary is lower than what it's in Western Europe, then I don't think it's very fair to ask for a full price, because then it's much more than a month's salary, or a much larger part of your monthly salary. So we have an arrangement for that. You can find it on the website. Basically, we give you 50% off the workshop fee, and we give you 50% off the food to make it affordable, because we'd like to share this with as much people as possible, because we love this work. And we think from a place of abundance, but we are in Western Europe, and not everybody's dancing in Western Europe. Some people are dancing in Romania and Poland, or Russia, or wherever, and income situations are different. So just so you know that, and you can find it on the website, and then you just, when you register, you just put that in the comment box. That's more part of the more commercial closing ending comments. But I think it's an important thing to mention. Okay. Yeah. Actually, Alina, I'd be happy to talk to you about that because I've always been playing with the idea to maybe take the consent part also out of Tantra into Zouk and make a separate thing out of it. But I need to have kind of like a group of like at least 5 or 6 people who are willing to push that a little bit and to make a separate thing around it. So if you're open to that, you're welcome to contact me. I would suggest to do the workshop one so you have the full version of it, and then we can see yeah, what's possible. And I feel more motivation and manifestation energy to make something like that happen, because I really think it serves the world. What's interesting also, by the way, is that the Zouk couple from Ghent, Stijn and Leah, they developed something similar. It's different, but it's very effective. And where I'm at now is I feel that combining what we do and what they do is probably the best of both worlds. So I'm going to bring a part of what they do into Tantra, into Zouk, because it kind of bridges. It's a bit of a step in between, and I think it makes things very accessible. So there are several different peoples who are different people and couples who are working with these things, because yeah, that's a bit of a missing gap in the Latin dance world. In what's the American, in the what's it called, swing? No, not swing, the other one. Oh yeah, sorry, West Coast swing. It's much more common that people actually, when you invite somebody, they ask like, oh, what kind of energy are you feeling like, and what do you like, or what do you want to do? That there's much more conversation up front, and therefore also during the dance. I think that's quite healthy, and people think that may disturb the flow, but most of the time the opposite is true. But yeah, you can only understand that once you experience that most of the time.
I agree, and it's beautiful, and it makes me so happy to hear that not only you, but there are other spaces where people are looking to bridge that gap.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, amazing. Yay. And I would love to talk to you. I'm just so bummed that I cannot attend this round.
Well, the next one we do is the 3 to 6 October, and I just published the next one in April because the dates got confirmed by the location to me. So we basically do one every, mostly in winter. I'm not in Europe, so then we're not doing it. But in spring, we do one in spring, we do one in summer, we do one in autumn. So okay. Any other questions? Okay, then I would like everybody to thank everybody for their questions and yeah, for their attention. I hope you enjoyed it. Also for the people who couldn't make it, thank you for sending in your questions. And yeah, both myself and Jolien, we would love to see you at some point in the workshop if you feel yeah, if you feel called upon it. So thank you very much, and yeah, I hope everybody will keep enjoying Zouking, and perhaps see you in Tantra into Zouk at some point in the future.
Yes, let's grow the community of conscious people in Zouk as well.
Yes.
That would be lovely. So
thank you for your time and energy.
Thank
I hope
you.
to meet you in person.
I hope so too.
indeed.
Bye.
We hereby already welcome you into the Tantra into Zouk family, because it's quite a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yay.
It's such a beautiful thing whenever people meet each other from that. There's this even if one did it like in 2022 and the other in 2019, there's always this like, oh, now we know where to go about. It's quite a special thing actually, that we find. It's quite beautiful. Okay. Thank you again, and
you.
see you on the dance floor.
See you on the dance floor. Bye. Have a beautiful
Bye.
night.